Brilliance Audio presents The Mountain by Helen Bryan, performed by Kate Redding. Stefania Albanese opened her eyes and saw the morning star shining through a large gap between the logs. The chinking had come away in many places, and it was always chilly early in the morning, even in summer. Drowsily, she hugged her quilt over her shoulders, prolonging the moment before she had to get up and start her morning chores. Suddenly she remembered what day it was and sat up, rubbing her eyes. Her friend Magdalena de Maréchal was getting married. She had to hurry. Peach Hanover and little Molly Drumheller would be waiting. The three of them were going up to Wildwood to help prepare for the wedding. There'd be breakfast first, Magdalena had promised. Stefania and her mother usually had only a bite of cold corn pone and some sumac tea in the mornings, but at Wildwood, breakfast meant bacon and coffee, perhaps even pie. Stefania was almost always hungry, and at the moment the prospect of breakfast was more exciting than her friend's wedding, or the fact that she had a new gown for the first time in her life. She threw back her quilt and rose from the corn-husk mattress. She splashed cold water from a bucket into a cracked basin and washed her face, then pulled on her patched homespun dress. She gave it a tug. She'd grown much taller in the months since she'd turned 13, and her dress felt shorter by the day. Hastily, she braided her hair into a single pigtail down her back, and barefoot slipped out of the cabin. She dragged open the sagging door of the small barn and milked the 2 old cows. They didn't give much. Then she hurried the cows out to the small fenced-off pasture to graze. The cows lowed in protest at being driven outside so early. In the next field, horses whinnied and came toward the fence. Unbolting the door to the chicken house, she wrinkled her nose at the smell. It needed cleaning. She'd do it tomorrow. Hens penned up since nightfall for safety against foxes and mountain lions came out clucking, while the rooster flapped his wings and crowed half-heartedly. They pecked around her bare feet for stray grains as she filled a bucket from the nearly empty corn crib for the horses. Poor horses. They looked skinny. The field wasn't really big enough to allow them as much grass as they needed, but she and her mother had to eke out the corn until they could harvest the crop in their small cornfield. She sympathized with the hungry animals. Her own middle felt hollow. She patted her stomach as if to reassure it. There'd be breakfast up at Wildwood, then wedding food later. Syllabub and cake, she thought greedily. And perhaps Magdalena's sister Kitty will make a trifle. She searched for eggs, happy to find half a dozen. She took them in with the milk and found her mother awake and a pot of tea waiting on the hearth. Rosalia was sewing, trimming her least shabby gown with scraps of fabric too small to work into a quilt. She'd fashioned them into tiny flowers and was now stitching them onto the bodice. "This will do for the wedding, won't it?" Rosalia held the gown up and considered it hopefully. Just 30 years old and having borne but 1 child, she looked much younger than most of the women in Grafton. She'd kept her good looks, her graceful walk, a full head of dark hair, and nearly all her teeth, though closer inspection revealed the fine lines care had worn in her pretty face. She did her best, but she hadn't been raised to manage a homestead, and it was a daily struggle to maintain the dilapidated smallholding upon which she'd grandly bestowed the only legacy of her aristocratic Sicilian family, their distinctive name, Chiaramonte. It was difficult to prioritize the most urgent tasks when practically everything that needed doing was pressing. Still, hardship had not extinguished her capacity for moments of joy, and the prospect of a wedding lifted her heart. She was fond of Magdalena, and above all it promised to be a happy day for Stefania.